Every 3 minutes, another senior quietly suffers a deadly heart attack or stroke, often without any warning signs. These silent killers are slipping through the cracks of everyday life, attacking slowly but surely, triggered by a mistake that seems harmless: early morning breakfast choices. Imagine a typical breakfast for many seniors: a bowl of sugary cereal, processed instant oatmeal, or sweetened yogurt. Foods that seem innocent but are hiding a dangerous secret. These foods are high in refined sugars and simple carbohydrates, and they are often consumed on an empty stomach. The problem begins the moment these seniors pour their cereal and add cold milk, starting a rapid rise in blood sugar levels within just 10 to 20 minutes. This spike is deceptively small to the untrained eye, but it sets off a chain reaction inside the body, feeding the first warning sign of internal damage. This sudden surge of sugar floods the bloodstream, causing the pancreas to release a large burst of insulin, sometimes 2 or 3 times the normal amount needed. That immediate insulin response helps clear sugar from the blood, but also leaves behind a trail of effects that slowly threaten their health. The blood vessels, especially the delicate arteries in seniors, become inflamed and sticky from this rapid shift. Over the course of days and weeks, this repeated overload causes the inner lining of arteries to become damaged, tiny tears and microscopic inflammation that often go unnoticed. For seniors, these signs seem like minor discomforts or fatigue, but beneath the surface, dangerous changes are taking place. The sticky blood, clogged with inflamed and damaged vessel walls, starts forming small clots that can freely travel through the bloodstream. What makes this escalation terrifying is how unnoticed it remains. These tiny clots can lodge in critical arteries, leading to mini strokes or silent heart attacks that seniors may never realize until it's too late. The inflammation begins to narrow the arteries gradually, reducing blood flow and weakening the heart muscle over time. This process is insidious, invisible during daily life, and worsens with each sugar-laden breakfast. After just a few weeks of consistently consuming high-sugar foods first thing in the morning, the risk of a severe blockage increases significantly. What was once a simple, routine choice now becomes a ticking time bomb, silently setting the stage for a life-threatening event. The danger escalates because the damage accumulates slowly but sufficiently enough to push their arteries toward the brink of complete collapse. For many seniors, the adverse effects are compounded by other lifestyle factors such as lack of exercise, stress, and overall poor diet. They remain unaware that their daily routine, especially the start of each day, is actively eroding their cardiovascular health. Every spoonful of sugary cereal, every sip of cold milk adds to this mounting danger. This slow but relentless process can lead to a fatal heart attack or a sudden stroke, striking without warning in the middle of a routine activity like walking or even resting. The true horror lies in how these seemingly benign habits are turning their bodies into ticking time bombs, with internal damage multiplying silently and invisibly until catastrophe strikes. It becomes clear that the key to preventing this escalation is not just avoiding one sugary meal, but understanding the exact timing and the specific foods responsible for fueling this destructive cycle. What happened next was even worse. I remember clearly several patients I had seen came back with complaints of sudden, inexplicable dizziness. At first, many of them dismissed it as another sign of aging, something they just had to live with. They'd brush it off as fatigue or minor vertigo, never suspecting what these symptoms truly signified. However, in retrospect, those dizzy spells were warning signs of their arteries beginning to clog from within. The tiny, almost invisible narrowing already started to restrict blood flow, depriving their brains and hearts of critical oxygen and nutrients. This internal narrowing is insidious because it produces no immediate pain or visible warning signs, only the vague feeling of imbalance or lightheadedness. Patients often ignore or dismiss these early symptoms, especially when they feel otherwise fine during most of their daily routines. But these episodes are literally the canary in the coal mine, indicating that the internal damage is accelerating silently beneath the surface. The real danger was still ahead. As these small blockages progress unchecked, they don't just stay static, they grow and weaken the integrity of the arterial walls. Each microvascular injury causes tiny tears in the delicate lining of the arteries, areas where inflammation begins to take hold. These tears may be microscopic, invisible even on advanced scans, but they serve as the initial footprints of much more dangerous processes. Over days and weeks, these tears become the perfect nidus for plaque formation. Buildup of cholesterol, calcium, and cellular debris begins to adhere to the damaged walls, creating stubborn plaques that further narrow and stiffen the arteries. What makes this stage so terrifying is how slow and stealthy it appears. The walls look normal on the outside, but internally, they are gradually transforming into hazardous regions prone to rupture or thrombosis. These tears and early plaques can remain silent, but they are now setting the stage for catastrophic events in the near future. I witnessed this progression firsthand when some patients who initially seemed stable suddenly experienced severe neurological symptoms. The danger was no longer just a matter of sluggish blood flow or minor dizziness. Micro-injuries accumulated to the point where the arteries could no longer withstand the internal strain. When the internal injuries, tiny as they might be, become severe enough, they act like ticking time bombs. Sometimes they rupture or cause a sudden detachment of a clot. This is what I saw happen firsthand, terrifying moments when seniors who appeared perfectly fine suddenly collapsed with partial paralysis, slurred speech, or fainting spells. These were warning strokes, the early signals of major brain injuries caused by the rupturing of fragile arteries or sudden blockage by a traveling clot. The alarming part is how delayed symptoms can be, often happening without warning, leaving the patient helpless at that critical moment. The damage that begins with a small dizziness or fatigue escalates explosively when the internal injuries reach a tipping point, turning what once seemed like minor issues into life-threatening emergencies in a matter of seconds. But that was just the beginning of the nightmare. As micro-injuries within the arterial walls worsened over time, they evolved into dangerous blood clots, each one a ticking time bomb silently floating within the bloodstream. These tiny clots, often the size of a grain of sand or smaller, are normally undetectable until they suddenly dislodge. Once loose, they can travel swiftly through the arteries, seeking the narrowest point where they can block vital blood flow to the heart or brain. When one manages to lodge within a critical artery serving the brain, it can suddenly cut off oxygen and nutrients to major areas responsible for speech, movement, or vital functions. Without warning, this blockage can cause a stroke. The devastation is immediate. Symptoms develop within seconds or minutes: facial drooping, weakness on one side, difficulty speaking or swallowing, loss of vision, or a sudden, overwhelming headache. The patient often cannot call for help in time. The key to understanding the danger is that these blood clots do not form overnight. They are the result of progressive internal damage, microscopic tears, and plaque buildup that have gone unnoticed for weeks or months. Each day's breakfast, laden with refined sugars and simple carbohydrates, continues to fuel this deadly process. In just a matter of hours, the same silent damage can suddenly unleash a catastrophe that ends a life instantly. What happened next was truly horrifying. One morning I saw a patient I had treated previously, someone who had been quite active and appeared healthy. That same afternoon, during a routine walk in the park, he suddenly collapsed. No signs of warning during the morning visit, no pain, no numbness, just an ordinary day. The emergency team raced to his side, but it was already too late. A blood clot had traveled from a microscopic internal tear, lodged deep within his brain, causing an occlusion that deprived critical tissue of oxygen. Brain cells began dying within minutes. His family was devastated as witnesses watched helplessly, powerless to prevent the rapid deterioration. The horrifying truth is that many seniors are living with these internal injuries every single day, unaware that each breakfast and every snack can be setting the stage for their sudden demise. Many die unexpectedly, their bodies littered with microscopic arterial tears and hidden clots, their lives ending without warning. The process is slow but relentless. Internal damage accumulates silently, and unless proactive steps are taken, the risk of a catastrophic stroke or heart attack is imminent and deadly. This alarming reality underscores how important it is to recognize the danger hiding behind everyday routines. The initial harmless-looking breakfast, often a bowl of sugary cereal, instant oatmeal, or a sweetened yogurt, may seem innocent enough. But these foods, when consumed regularly, act as fuel for internal inflammation and internal tears in the arteries. Without intervention, the internal environment becomes a perfect storm for blood clots to form and break free at any moment. The devastating outcome can come suddenly in the middle of a walk, while resting, or even during routine chores. The final, terrifying consequence is that many seniors arrive at the emergency room too late, with irreversible brain damage or a fatal heart attack already in progress. Internal damage that began as microscopic tears and warning signs in the arteries culminates in the most tragic way, an unexpected death that could have been prevented. The key to prevention lies in understanding how everyday food choices set this deadly chain in motion. By simply adjusting breakfast habits, reducing sugar intake, incorporating natural blood sugar stabilizers such as cinnamon or apple cider vinegar, and limiting processed foods, seniors can drastically reduce internal vessel damage and thwart the formation of lethal blood clots. The urgency is real, and the window for prevention is narrow.